Hey everybody, welcome to what is hopefully going to be a quick video. So, during the Hearthstone expansion, there was also some other big news in the Overwatch community. Hog got a rework, and sadly I didn't have time to cover it on the day, and I don't really have that much time to cover it now. So I'm doing a quick, maybe like 10-15 minute video, maybe not even that, it might honestly be 6 minutes, discussing it. So I've had a little mess around with it this morning, and I am so unbelievably underwhelmed by it, it's untrue. So let me get down to the notes themselves. Actually, you know what? Let's just show off what the rework basically is. The rework is that he's now got a new ability. It is his E, which is called Pigpen, I believe. Yes, Pigpen. You launch a trap, which is kind of like the Junkrat traps, and if an enemy walks over it, they get slowed and take damage, I believe. I'll go through the numbers in a moment. So the idea is that you hook your target into the trap, they're slowed in here, they take some damage, and you chunk them down. And if you do this with a squishier hero, let's say, let's say a soldier. Hook them in, it basically guarantees the kill on them, right? It does an instant tick damage when you get hit by this, or an instant impact damage, and then it does a little tick over time. So, in, shoot, dead. So that is basically now Hog's new one-shot combo. You use two abilities for it and your left click. Other big thing is, Take a Breather now is toggleable. So, unlike before where, you push the ability, you would get all this big massive amount of healing, and then you would just stand around doing nothing again. Hog can now do stuff like this, where that's as short amount of time as you can use it, it recharges, and then I can use it again for longer, then I can let go, then I can take some more damage, and then I can use it again. So you can kind of weave in. It's more like Bastion's self-heal that was in Overwatch 1. Now there is some precedent in the tank role that taking abilities off like a cooldown and changing it to a toggle ability does significantly improve the hero. So I think this is part of the reason why for this rework they thought it was going to be like game-changing for Hog. Way back in the annals of history of Overwatch, literally like in either season 1 or season 2, I think it was season 2 this came in. Before then, D.Va's defense matrix wasn't toggleable. You was either on or like off, if you know what I mean. So like, you'd push the button, you would defense matrix, it would last for however long it lasted for, 4 seconds I think. And then it would go into cooldown for like 12 seconds. And D.Va was unplayable. It's probably the worst state D.Va's ever been in. Then they changed it in Season 2 that she could turn it on and off, and D.Va became one of the strongest heroes in the game. They also made her like indestructible, gave her like 400 armor, but that's by the by. So I think they were hoping the heal would have a similar impact for Roadhog. Spoilers, it doesn't. The other big major change, you may be noticing that this is on right click now, not on E anymore, because the trap has replaced the E ability. His primary fire is also different now. So you don't have left click and right click, you just have left click now, and they sort of combine the two abilities. So if you can see, there's like an outer spread of pellets. And that's kind of like the old left click. Then on the inside, there's 4 pellets that go, I think, a bit further and do more damage. So that's like your skill shot at medium range. So like you can see on the center here, I'm still doing a big amount of damage. And that's because I said these center pellets have the long range blast. If I, fire this off like here instead, you know what, let's pick a ball that's not nearly dead. You see I'm doing like no damage now. And then this is like old, just left click Hog. So as I said, it's kind of nice that, they have the abilities maybe like wrapped into one. But personally, I still don't like it. Anyway, let me get to the damage numbers. So, the scrap gun, there's no secondary fire, we just mentioned this. In theory, the damage per shot has increased from 150 to 160. Now, I need to explain this a bit further. I wasn't fully... They didn't explain this particularly well, to be honest with you. So, there are now 16 pellets on the outer ring, and that is down from 25 on the original primary fire. They do 6.25 up from 6 damage for a total of about, I think it's 100 damage if you do the maths. And now there's a shrapnel volley, they call it, in the center of your primary fire. And each one of those shots, which is 4 large projectiles, does 15 damage for a total of an additional 60 damage, which is where they get the 160 number from. So it's both the center blast and the outer ring. And then they've reduced the critical damage multiplier from 2 times to 1.5 times, because otherwise Hog would shred people. We've mentioned about the healing. It's the secondary fire button. You can like toggle it on and off. The cooldown is at 1 second, so you can't just quickly spam it. It has a 1 second downtime, but you don't really notice it. There's a resource meter. We saw this. Takes 12 seconds to recharge from empty. And it can heal 450 health over 3 seconds. One of the other key things, though, is that it doesn't amplify healing when it ends. And more importantly, the damage reduction is down from 50% to 30%. Which actually is such a humongous nerf that I almost think buffing the secondary, or whatever you want to call it now, the take a breather, was kind of pointless. Then going to Pigpen. It does 60 damage when triggered and 30 damage per second in an area. It's a 40% movement slow, cooldown's 12 seconds, and it lasts for 3 seconds. And that is the rework, which was, honestly, I think it was a bit optimistic to call it a rework, so to speak. Because, realistically, this fixes absolutely zero of Hog's problems. What was Hog's problem? Hog's problem was he couldn't really play in the front line, right? If you try to frontline into heroes, I mean, I can't really do it in the gallery here, or the training range here. But let's say you were trying to, match up with a Reinhardt. Ryan would put up his shield. Imagine he's put up his shield. We do this, and it'd be like, oh, the Ryan's laughing at me. Even now, Ryan, look at his armor. I'm still doing, like, no damage, right? Sure, I could do, the full wombo combo. You know what the full wombo combo is now? In an actual game? Excuse me, Reinhardt, sir. Can you wait for me while I set up my combo? Thank you, good sir. And all for this, which I'll admit, it does mean I can now 3-shot a tank, which is pretty good as Roadhog. And I think when Roadhog was briefly playable in like the last season of 6v6 Owl with Zarya, and that's because his pellet damage was insane. Like, he could shred tanks. This gets it closer to that point of a damage number that would shred a tank. However, it isn't true the same as shredding the tank with your primary fire, because that would also work on shields, whereas this combo doesn't really work on the shield quite the same. But yeah, it doesn't do anything. By the way, this thing can be destroyed. It's like a Junkrat trap. So your opponent will see you throw this out into the front line, and they'll just destroy it. So I guess what they want you to do instead is like throw it here and do, the old hookaroony to spin him around. Nice. That's going to happen often. I will admit, of all the tanks, I play a lot of tank heroes. Roadhog is the one I play the least, so I'm not super familiar on this deck. Do I have to do it like this? Yeah. So I guess you throw it behind a corner, you do the skill hookshot to pull them around a corner, and then the slowed in your team, and you can 3 or 4 shot them, depending on how lucky you are. But realistically, Roadhog could do that before, right? Without this. What the good Roadhog players would do is they'd hook the Rhine, pull him around the corner, okay, I failed it, and then they would just stand next to him, body block him, while shooting him. So actually this, other than being an impact of, 60 damage plus 30 or however much it ticks over, it doesn't move the needle that much for this combo. And because of this, I don't think it really improves him for what he was best at, which is hooking someone out of the enemy team and just annihilating them, right? You could either displace a tank, like so, or you could find a squishy hero and try and kill them. Now, in the past, you might be asking, is the one-shot back? The one-shot isn't exactly back. If you don't use your trap and you hook them and just blast them straight away, this is the damage you leave them on. I think if I hook them step forwards and maybe aim a little bit better, yeah, it's still not there. Even with the melee, it's not quite there. You might still be able to do it just on certain heroes, maybe. Actually, Zen won't work anymore because it's 225. Who's a smaller, pudgier hero than this? I think Cassidy was easy to one-shot, right? Yeah, like the one-shot is going to be pretty inconsistent, so that hasn't changed. However, if you use the trap, you're like guaranteed to get it. The tick damage will kill them, so... I would say Hog is better at hooking squishies. What he doesn't do very well into is, I don't know, let's say anti-nades, sleep darts, being burnt, being stunned, javelins, shields he's still not that great into. Basically, the 90% of the roster of Overwatch, Hog is not particularly great into, so they've missed the mark, really, on this one. I don't fully know what I was expecting. I mean, it's really unfortunate because you can't take away the hook from Hog's identity, right? It's really the hero is a hook hero, right? But Hog was clearly designed for, you know, the times when Overwatch was no limits. You could play 6 Hogs, right? Or at least, you know, after that, where they made it so that you couldn't pick the same hero multiple times, you could run Hog with multiple tanks. So they could play frontline, and you could just flank, because that's what Hog is really good at. He can deny a flank very well. It's very hard to 1v1 this hero, and it's probably harder to 1v1 the hero now. If you're a Tracer and he throws this down and you blink into it, you're fucked. You're going to die. But again, you can't really justify spending your resources on the Hog to put him on the flank to do nothing. And then just going through the other tank rosters, how is Hog supposed to help his team with any of this? Like, Hog has no shield. His abilities, and I'm going to use this term, they're basically selfish abilities, right? You mainly use them for yourself. Sure, you could argue that if someone dies from your backline, you can hook them. The hook is the best peel tool. You can ult them to push them away, but you don't want your big save tool being your ultimate, right? And the landing a hook to peel for someone is, firstly, it's only single target, and secondly, is a skill shot you're not guaranteed to hit. So it's kind of putting you in the realms of you have to play 100% perfectly to get less value than D.Va just holding right click. So again, just going through the other tank roster, you know, of utility. D.Va, insane mobility, defense matrix, can eat projectiles. Very nice. Doomfist, insane mobility, and still has the pick potential that Roadhog has. And you kind of have to deal with this guy, right? He gets into your team, he makes you turn around. Annoying. Now, the hero I'd probably compare Roadhog to the most is Junker Queen. They have some very similar traits. Junker Queen has a pull ability via the knife, which you can then combine into this. And look, it does a very similar amount of damage to the old hook combo. Sure, not with the trap, you may not get the one-shot kill. Actually, even then, yeah, you can still get the one-shot with Junker Queen, even without the additional use of a trap. So, my question again comes, why would you play Roadhog when you could play Junker Queen, for example? Now, Junker Queen has Adrenaline Rush, so she heals from bleeding people, so she's also susceptible to anti-nade. But what she's not as susceptible to is CC, because she still gets a heal. Even if she gets CC, then it is a lot less than Roadhog, I'll admit, but you know, that is a noticeable heal at times. Definitely, if you can get into like a brawling situation with Junker Queen, and you axe like 3 people, you're pretty goddamn unkillable. And then more to the point for Junker Queen, she has this ability, which gives her and her team mobility. That gives her a niche. She can play like this brawling hero where she shouts her team, you all play close together, and you rush on a target with low mobility, and that guy cannot live, he will die, especially if you're running Lucio with them. So again, my question is, why would you play Roadhog over Junker Queen? Junker Queen, I would also say, doesn't have a great frontline presence, right? She doesn't have a shield. She doesn't have that much damage mitigation. Again, you kind of want to use the shout proactively than reactively. It feels horrible to use the shout reactively. But as I said, you have got this, I'm going to empower my entire team to do something. Junker Queen's very much like the highest of highs and then the lowest of lows, right? When she uses shout and she shouts her entire team, you get this big power boost. Once all the overshield and the speed goes away, you kind of want to play a little bit slower. Her other niche, by the way, I think you can... Actually, let me just check this before I say wrong. How cooldown? Yeah, her knife's on a 5-second cooldown. The hog hook, I think, is it 12 seconds? Oh, it's 6. Okay, it's more comparable than I thought. Never mind. I'll mute that point. I was going to say the knife is up as much, if not more, than the hook. I thought it was way more. So you can still displace heroes like Doom or Wrecking Ball, which is really where Roadhog excels, for denying these hyper mobility tanks. Anyway, let's continue through the roster. Orisa has a movement ability and a projectile destroying ability, kind of like a shield. Also has Fortify. She fortifies in your team. She becomes an unkillable god that Anti-Nade doesn't super care about. She also has crowd control. Basically, she just fucked Roadhog. Like, if you fortify, Roadhog can't hook her, and she probably isn't affected by the slow, right? You can just E into him and he can't shoot you, and then if he heals, even though it's on a togglable ability, you can still interrupt it with that and then just, you know, pepper him away. And Orisa still sees no play because Orisa can't really deal that well with super long-range poke. Even though she can poke from distance, she herself gets poked very hard. What is wrong with Roadhog? Also very susceptible getting poked at massive amounts of range. Let's say this is a Widowmaker. How do I deal with a Widowmaker from this distance? Actually, that's pretty high amount of damage. Okay, that's more reasonable. Like, sure, that's a 3-shot, but it's with a slow-moving projectile with a huge critical hitbox. The training box is sometimes misleading, so your results will definitely differ. Again, if you're trying to play Roadhog into long-range poke, you're going to have a bad day. Anyway, further in the roles, we have Ramattra. Ramattra has a shield, has ranged poke, then can turn into a secondary form where he can brawl. And he has a slow as well, so he has some sort of, like, you know, soft CC ability. Roadhog doesn't have a shield. Doesn't necessarily have the survivability that Ram does either when he does, you know, his crossed arms pose. I can't remember what the damage reduction is on that. Is it like 80%? But anyway, he can just stand in the team and take all of the focus. Roadhog can't do that. He just has to tank it with his health, which is always susceptible to being interrupted by control, like sleep, by anti, by javelin. You name it, he's susceptible to it, basically. Reinhardt. Reinhardt has a shield. That's very good for your team, right? Look how easy it is to take space with Rein. That was nice, right? How easy is it to take space? Oh, by the way, also Reinhardt, you know, movement ability. How easy is it to take space with Roadhog? They're shooting me. You know what? I can show this better. Hang on a minute. The training range can actually do something for me. So that is the enemy team, and I am going to take space with Reinhardt. I'm like, don't worry team, I can even then cancel it. Look at this, I have 450 health, my shield was at like 1,100 health, and my team has all of this space to play in and have fun. Let's do the same with Roadhog. Roadhog's like, oh shit, the enemy team. Let me waddle at them and hold right click. By the way, you can't fire in this. Hey look, I'm at the enemy team. I'm at 550 health, but my team is dead. Right? So, at the end of the day, what you're going to be doing with Roadhog is the same as what you were doing with Roadhog before. Except now you do that into that. So you're not helping your team take space either. And your team is going to be angry for you with that. Sigma is like the ultimate tank right now. He has a shield, which he can, you know, kind of spam out a little bit. He can, what's the word for it? I guess fanning his shield is the word for it, so he can protect its durability. And if people get up close to him, he just does this on them and eats the projectiles. If you have a high mobility hero, he has a skill shot with the rock, which is a crowd control, which, by the way, Roadhog doesn't like being rocked either. Doesn't like being shielded off. What does Roadhog have to compare to this? How does Roadhog take the space? How does Roadhog fight at range? Spoilers, he can't. Winston! Mobility! Shield! No mobility, no shield, no team utility. Wrecking Ball at Sea is basically zero play right now, and again has got a similar problem to the Roadhog that he was designed for 6v6. Mobility, the most mobility in the game, probably the highest tempo hero in the game. He can just always be in the fight. He has got some CC as well, if I can. You know what, just do it off the wall. Do it off the wall. I don't know if you can wall bounce this, actually. Can you wall bounce it? You can. It's not hard CC, but it's good enough for situations. Also, Ball pokes surprisingly well at range. I think people forget this. He's pretty middle range character. A lot of people, and I do this as well, it's just slamming up close, and then you're like, ah! But sometimes with Ball, you just want to take like tracer angles and go a little bit further away. Ball sees basically zero play, but he has insane mobility, so he can get on backline snipers and force them to deal with them. Roadhog hasn't got insane mobility. He hasn't got a shield, so it's harder for him to take space. He doesn't like getting CC'd. Ball doesn't like getting CC'd either, to be fair. Like, again, where is Roadhog's niche? Zarya is kind of like the one weird exception to the rule of all of this. She, like Roadhog, doesn't particularly do well at massive amounts of range. She's not great at mid-range, I'd argue. She can fight a little bit at the mid-range, but I'd say like mid to close is more of her spiel. Like that's reasonable range, right? But that's like on the very tip of mid. What she is good at though is combining with other heroes that have movement abilities like a Reaper or a Tracer. They get onto the backline, you bubble them, your opponent has a real tough time dealing with them. They almost become like the pseudo tank, right? You give a DPS hero like 200 effective more HP, and they go and do their thing. And the reward for you doing that is that you get a bunch of energy, and then you can fight on the front line once you've got energy, because then you can start shredding the shields instead. Also, just as a reminder, this cleanses. So you do have utility. If your backline gets dove, you can bubble them. One of my favourite things to do as Zarya, admittedly, I don't think it's as strong in 5v5. If you were playing a Zarya into a dive comp, Winston dives your, let's say you've got a Zen for whatever reason. They dive your Zen, just bubble him. That gives you your energy, your Zen stays alive, he pumps out a shit ton of damage into the enemy tank, the Winston has to immediately retreat, and you, as I said, you get a lot of energy, and then you can fuck him up once he's dove back into his team. Roadhog just doesn't have any of this. Like, this doesn't change anything. Like, so what? So what if I throw that at the enemy tank and slow them down? It doesn't matter. I could have done that with Sigma with his what's his called? I can't remember what it's called, but his field. I will say I think this is better than Sigma's field because it does more damage. And you don't really care about pulling people down from the skybox. But man, I just feel like this has completely missed the mark for me. I don't think it's going to make any difference to his playability. What is the niche that Hog is good at, I suppose? Let's look at it this way. He's good if you play into Doom, he's pretty good into. That's like the classic thing. Your hook interrupts his power block, and you can like cancel one of his movement abilities. And he's basically a movement-based hero. Ball is probably the other one that I'd say is pretty good at dealing with, at least. If you hook him mid grapple, it's really annoying for the ball player. You just cancel all of his momentum. You might not be able to kill him, but still, you just harass him. You kind of just cancel each other out. To some extent, Winston is the other one. Winston, very susceptible to the left click. I assume he's still pretty susceptible to the left click even after the rework. It does, in theory, do more damage. But I don't know how that equates with the critical hitbox change. It might actually be less damage into Winston. But I don't think it's a particularly favourable matchup. I would say, like, oh, Roadhog hard counters Winston, because most of the rest of the dive comp will then counter Roadhog. Then, do I think he's good into Ashe? No. Do I think he's particularly good into Bastion? No. Do I think he's good into Cassidy? No. Do I think he's good into No. Genji? No. Hanzo? No. Junkrat? Who cares? Mei? Not really. Pharah? No. Reaper? Kind of. Sojourn? No. Soldier? No. Sombra? No. Sim? No. Torbjorn? Not really. Tracer? Kind of, but again, the Tracer's not really going to be fighting the Roadhog, and it's a hard skill shot to hit. Widowmaker? No. Anna? No. Bap? No. Brig? No. Illari? Actually, kind of. I think Illari might be not the worst matchup, but no, actually, it's pretty bad. Illari will just outrange you. Kiriko? No, you don't really want to play with Kiriko. Also, you need to basically play Kiriko with this hero still to cleanse the antis. Lifeweaver. You know what? Hog is probably decent into Lifeweaver. We'll give him a pass. Into Lucio. Who cares? But yeah, he's fine. Yeah, fine. Kind of, yeah, fine. And no. So that is kind of Hog's spiel right now. I don't think he's particularly good into any of the DPS. Except maybe Reaper. And maybe Junkrat. Wow. If the opponent is running Doomfist, Reaper, Junkrat, Mercy, Lucio, Hog might be a good pick. Do I think he's the best pick into that? No. There are far more utility heroes here. And this comes back again to what I was kind of saying before. When the Malga, like, open weekend was up. I said that Malga was fun, don't get me wrong. I kind of liked his playstyle, and I thought it was pretty strong. But while there is, like, antis and CCs and stuff in the game, it's so hard to play, like, a frontline presence tank when you don't have this overarching ability that helps you deny damage. Like, you can't just heal through it, because that can be interrupted, or it can be cancelled, or it can be, you know, you can counterplay it. And what's even worse is for Roadhog, if you're just healing, the enemy gets the ult charge. So you're just basically, you're this 550 health hero with no armor, by the way, no barrier either. And you're just going to give them, how much was the re-heal, sorry, 350 was that? 450, sorry. You're going to give them, was it 1,000 in total? Quick maths, yeah. You're going to give them 1,000 HP and ult charge. That is basically an ult for a lot of heroes. 80% of an ult for the rest of them. It's just... It's so frustrating. They spent so long teasing the Roadhog rework. And it was this! This! Sorry, I'm also losing my voice. Anyway, I'm going to have to cut this short now. Again, I just think Hog is in the worst place because it's so hard to design a tank with this ability. Right? Because if you make it a one-shot, like a guaranteed one-shot, it's obnoxious to play against. You don't have fun as the squishier heroes in the game. And then if you give him also a frontline presence, this becomes obnoxious, right? Because then you can actually also fight mano-a-mano with the opponent tank and also win 1v1 versus DPS, which is a little bit too powerful. Personally, what I thought they might try and do, and I don't know if this would still be the best for him, but I would have given him like a taunt ability or something like that. Sure, taunt without, like, you know, a movement ability is not great, but at least then you could say, okay, this hero works well with Sim, for example, TP on someone and taunt them. Lucio, speed onto them and taunt them. And then the taunt effect would be like, for X amount of time, it'd be like a status effect, which you could cleanse. For X amount of time, if you attack anyone but me, you're only going to do like 20% damage. You do the normal damage to me, but you have to focus me now. Look at me. Hey, look at me, I'm taunting you. It could have also been really neat. The taunt could have used your voice lines. Like, it could have emoted. Imagine, well, not emote, sorry, but like, use the voice line. Imagine, wait, can you not voice line from here? There it is. Imagine laughing at them. Don't know why it won't open my other voice line wheel, whatever. But anyway, you could say, like, want some candy or something at them, and they get taunted in, like, a small AoE around you. I think that would have been pretty cool for Roadhog. And then you could also change his style then, where Hog like gets rushed onto them or TPs onto them, taunts them, and they're like, holy shit, I don't want to be near this hero right now. I don't want to take the 1v1 because the 1v1 is not favourable for me. Because Hog, very good at 1v1s. Kind of again like Malgus Cage is how I'm imagining this taunt. You taunt someone, they try and run away, and then if they try and run away, you hook them then. You use it to deny escape abilities. I think that could have been a really cool place to put Hog, but no, we got Slow Trap, which is only going to frustrate people because it's more CC to the game. And realistically, if you do, again, they've just made it another way to make the one-shot combo. Just give me the one-shot combo back then. Why give him another ability? I don't understand it. That's basically what they want you to do with Roadhog now. If you miss the hook, you've used... Well, sorry, I meant to miss the hook then, but I'm too skillful. If you miss the hook, you've basically used your E for nothing, and it's a 12-second cooldown. So you're not going to use it on the next hook. So you're going to wait on the same pissing corner for your second hook to come up, and you're going to hook again. Oh no, I missed the hook. This thing is now going to be up on cooldown again, but you're still stood at this corner and your team is crying at you because the Widowmaker is shooting you across the map. Think of the Widowmaker across the map. Anyway, I think that just about covers my opinions on Hog. Apologies I've got no actual gameplay video in here. I might record one later in the week, but as I said, I'm a bit busy. I'm not streaming later on today, so hopefully I'll get this video up on today being Wednesday. In fact, hopefully I'll get it pretty gosh darn quick. I will be streaming it on Thursday, but I plan to do a bit more Hearthstone, so I don't know. Honestly, is the rework even worth checking? It's clearly not going to be good, right? Oh, one other final thing I'm just going to mention before I go. There is one other thing I want to mention. I kind of hate that they've combined the left and right clicks into one. One of the most fun, satisfying things about Hog was hitting a juicy right click and getting like the instant headshot. And it was a skill shot. Why have you removed this? Sure, maybe you might argue that it was so hard to hit that it was no longer a skill shot and it was like a luck shot. So it was a lottery roll. Sometimes you would hit the insane right click and you would kill someone. Other times you would, you feel like you've hit the juiciest right click and it does like 1 damage. But I still think it's reduced Hog's skill expression. I think it's made him weaker at close and long range. And it's kind of made him this hero that wants to sit at close to mid-range and poke people. But that is not particularly great, and it makes you very susceptible to being rushed down and just killed. Because again, the hero has no mobility. And this, you don't do damage anymore when you're doing this. So, I don't know. The hero just doesn't help his team. He plays for himself selfishly. They haven't changed that. He's very susceptible to antis. Hogs will still potentially dominate games in lower ranks because there's a lack of coordination and people stagger more often, and getting picks at lower ranks is better at higher ranks who might ult cycle better, so on and so forth. Use the cooldown smarter. At the higher ranks or in competitive play, this hero is worthless, completely worthless. And what kind of worries me a little bit for this hero is rework has been in the runnings for a long time. I'd even go as far back as to say, during Overwatch 1 in the experimental patch era, they tested they tested a change one time that made it take a breather. I think it healed their allies as well for a small amount. And it basically got removed because I think people didn't really like it, or it just wasn't very clear what was happening. That at least would have helped your team out. I don't think it would have been a great change, but, hey, look, my team's being dove. Let me just... Oh, no, sorry. Let me just heal on them. Let me just vape in their face. Blow the smoke in their face, and they can heal off it. They can get secondhand smoke. Or secondhand vape, I suppose. So I think they've been working on this for years, the potential change to Hog. I think as soon as they decided they were going to 5v5, they were like, shit, we have to change Roadhog. He won't be playable in this state. And it just sucks that... It sucks that it feels like they spent so much time on something that kind of misses the mark. I think it's going to make people frustrated to play against. All right, I'm just saying the same things. That's my ins and outs. Anyway, 34 minutes of moaning about Roadhog. Impressive. Yeah, I'll feed up some more videos later on in the day for Hearthstone, and maybe I'll check this out later in the week. Goodbye.